Today I'll be showing you how to change this PCV valve in this 2015 Nissan Frontier pickup. It has the VQ40DE engine, should be the same in any vehicle that has this engine. First thing to do, of course, is to pop the hood. Go ahead and get the hood up, stick the prop in. Alright, so full disclosure here, guys. You may not have to take off the entire air intake system, including the manifold, to do this job, but you might. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Over here, this is the PCV valve hose. And then if you follow that all the way back, down in here, right there, that's where your valve threads into your lower intake manifold. Now, you would have to reach back in here, get off that clamp on the hose, pull off your hose, and then that's a 23mm nut on the valve itself. You'll need a deep well socket for this. You probably won't have any room for a wrench back in there. You might not need it. It's really not threaded in that tightly. But you will need to either get some sort of a wrench on there or a 23mm socket. And there's not much room in there. So for some people with small hands, you might be able to do this and not take off the entire manifold. But for me, I have to remove the manifold to do a separate job anyway. I'm also changing the spark plugs in this truck, and for that you have to take all this off. So I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone here. Plus, it'll give you guys a much better visual. It'd be very hard to film back there if I didn't take off this manifold here. There were also two more hoses as well that I wanted to swap out while I'm at it. These are also emissions hoses. One is this one here. This one is super easy. You don't have to remove anything to swap out this one. But then there's also this one down here. And that goes from the driver's side valve cover all the way over here. That's the other side of the hose, to the passenger side valve cover. And for that one, you will at bare minimum need to take off these two parts here, but you might actually have to take off this as well. That's a very tight fit over here. That's not much room at all. So, that one's a maybe. Now, if you guys just want to see the part where I swap out the hoses and the valve itself, fast forward to this part here. If you want to see the entire process where I take off this entire air intake system, I will show you that now. First thing that I want to do is disconnect the negative battery terminal. This is a 10mm nut. And I'm just going to take it off and kind of tuck it down here. Next, we just want to take off these two bolts here to take off this plastic cover. These are 10mm bolts. Alright, so you just have to take off those two bolts, and then there's these two little grommets here. This is where those two little grommets go, right there. So you just have to pry up there, and then that little cover comes off. So next we just want to take off these two bolts as well. These are also 10mm. The left-hand side one is being a little stubborn here. Don't know what it's catching on in there. It's loose, but it's not coming all the way out yet. Might just be kind of seized to that rubber grommet there. So this little washer right here is sort of stuck to the rubber grommet there. See how there's a rubber grommet here? So it's sort of stuck on there. So I'm just going to kind of pry that off a little bit. There we go. She's out. Now we're going to remove this whole intake tube here. So once you got off those two bolts right there, then we got to pinch this with a pliers, and then we're going to take off this hose, and we're going to loosen the clamp here and over here, and we're going to take those off. These clamps here are 8mm, or you can use a flathead. Be plenty loose. That comes off of there really easy. That came off pretty darn easy too. Just got to clear this little radiator cap there. There we go. Simple. Okay, so now we need to remove the throttle body. So it's just going to be these 4 bolts here. We'll leave this plugged in. We don't need to take that off. We're just going to remove this and kind of let it hang there. These are number 5 Allen keys. That's what the Allen key looks like. It's a 6-sided hex. Number 5. Now these do have a little split washer on them, so make sure that you don't lose that. You can see they're a pretty long bolt, and there's a little split washer there on them. So we're just gonna let that kind of hang there. Okay, so now we need to take off the intake plenum, or also known as the intake manifold. First thing we're going to do is take off this little clamp and remove this side of the hose here. Then down here there's a mounting bracket. You see this bracket right here. There's a bolt right there, and then there's one more bolt over here on this side. If you can see it right there. We need to take those off. We can leave all this stuff on there, but we do need to unplug this clip here, and we need to take off that bolt there. So that's what I'm gonna do next. There we go. Sometimes these old hoses can be pretty stuck on the plastic, so you gotta kind of get them to twist first, and then they should pull off pretty easy after that. I'm going to see if I can just gently clamp onto this hose where I don't damage it, but I can get a little leverage on there to twist it. It's starting to rain here. There we go. So these are 12mm bolts here. So I'm going to use a flare nut wrench here. This is a 12mm for that bracket bolt there, just so I don't round off the corners, because this one's giving me a little bit of trouble here. Wow. There we go. Man, no idea why it was that tight. Okay. And then we got our one in the back there as well. With this one, I should be able to reach it with my socket. Okay, once the bracket bolts are off, then you just have to unplug this right here. You literally just have to press down here on the end here and pull out. And then this one here is also a 12mm bolt. So I broke that loose. Okay, so now we're going to come around here to the left side, and then right here, this is your PCV valve hose. So we're going to go ahead and take a little pliers and get that off of the manifold there. Okay, so that's off. Okay, so now back here at the back of the manifold, there's this little bracket, and you can see there's this wiring harness here with these little clips that go into the bracket. So we're just gonna, these just kind of squeeze in. So you get like a little pliers, squeeze them in, and then you can, you know, push it back out that hole. And then we're gonna take off the 2 bolts on the bracket itself that attaches the bracket to the manifold. There you go. So that's through. So once you get this out right here, I just used a flathead screwdriver on each end of the clips. As you can see right there, you just kind of press in on that end, press in on that end, and like press it out. You can leave in this one here because you only need to reach that bolt right there, and then there's a bolt underneath this one. If you can see it down there. So that's why you had to take out this one here. So now we just got to take out those two. Those are 10mm bolts. Okay, so now that that's off there, there are 7 bolts and nuts here that you need to take off to get off this manifold. So there's 1, there's 2, there's another one back in here, down in there, there's 3, I don't know if you can see it, there it is, 4, another one back in here, 5, 6, and then 7 right there at the back there. So we're gonna take all those off now. Okay, so these are all 10mm bolts and nuts here, so if you need to use an extension, then go ahead and do so. I'm just gonna break torque on all of them here and then come in with my drill to get them all loose. One in the back's a little tricky to get to. Actually need a lower profile socket there. All right, I think that did the trick. There we go, little swivel adapter there. So now, this should be all free here. There we go. Should be able to gently pull this off these studs here. There's these little 2 studs to clear. And all this will come off as one piece here. There we go. So that's off and loose. Let's clear this bracket. But there is one more little clamp to take off here. So back over here on the passenger side, again, this is your PCV hose. Right there, there's a little clamp that goes into the manifold itself. So we just got to get in there. I'm going to use a little like trim tool, see if I can get in there and just kind of pop off that little clip there. Okay, so the actual hose itself can just kind of slide out of here. See how that little clip is? See how there's a side to it there? You can literally just slide it out there. So this clip can stay in the manifold itself. But then back here, there's one more hose right here that we got to take off. And that'll be the last hose. There we go. Okay, now we can gently take the whole manifold off here. All right, so here's the bottom of your intake manifold, guys. We're gonna go ahead and change out all of the intake plenum gaskets here, as well as the one for the throttle body there. You don't necessarily need to change these every single time that you take it off, but if it's, you know, been a while, these can definitely get old and like hard and brittle, and they won't seal quite as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap them out. Okay, so that was where that last hose was that we had to take off the back of the intake manifold there. Now I'm just gonna take some tape and I'm gonna cover up all these intake runners here. We don't wanna accidentally drop stuff down there, especially if you look down there. You can see that those butterfly valves and some of those are open. So we don't want to drop stuff down there. I did take Gorilla duct tape and I sealed off all of these here. I just used that brand because it's so much better than most of the other brands out there. Okay, so now we can easily get back to our PCV valve right there. That's it right there, guys. There we go. Now, so you could take off that clamp right there and then stick a socket around the end. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a crescent wrench. All right, so here's the new PCV valve here. Let me show you what I'm talking about there. So see how there's a 6-sided hex? You could use a socket on there, but I'm just gonna use an adjustable wrench. So this is not an OEM valve here. It's a standard part number V436. And the way that you tell if a PCV valve is good or not is you kind of shake it. And then if you hear that little like rattling sound in there, it should be good. If you don't hear that, then it's clogged up and it's not working properly. I'm just gonna go ahead and use this right here to try to get that off. I think it's gonna be easier if I pull that clamp back to get it on there. So that's what I'm gonna do. There we go. Pulled that clamp off. See how hard it is maybe just to pull this whole hose off. If I can get it easily, I'll do it. It's coming off a little bit. And there it goes. Okay, so I got the PCV hose off. This is what it looks like, guys. Again, it feels super hard. You know, there's no give to that at all. If I had the right size socket, I could just go ahead and put it on there and it'd easily come off, I'm sure now. But I don't. Let's see if I can get this in there now. It's proving a little tricky to get in there like that, guys. So I just noticed something back here, guys. This, which appears to be, I think, coolant of some sort. This piece is broken right there. I'll show you that here in a second. I'm gonna have to fix that for sure. Okay, guys, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a 24mm socket. As you can see, it's not a, you know, a perfect fit in there. It's a little loose, but it might be enough just to like break that loose. So we'll see. There's not really much room at all to get this socket in there. Wonder if I can just break it loose by hand. Oh yeah, it's coming off now. So it's not in there very tight at all. You just need to be able to get a little bit of leverage on it. There you go, guys. There's the old one. Alright, once it's pretty much bottomed out, I'm just going to take that socket and snug it up a little bit more. Alright, I think that's good. Alright, so this right here, guys, this is what broke here. Don't really know what happened. I don't know if I accidentally bumped that as I was trying to get that wrench in there earlier. But this obviously separated from this piece here. So I'm going to have to get a whole new piece here. And gosh, I hope that's not going to be too large of a project or a chore there. I'm not sure how much that piece costs. But that's a bummer. That looks like engine coolant to me. I don't know if that's coming from the heater core or where that's going. But anyway, back to this. So now you can go ahead and swap in your new hose if you're not going to reuse the old one. I would highly suggest not reusing it. These are, you know, super cheap, guys. You'll just want to reuse the clamps here on the ends. So here's the new PCV valve hose, guys. This is a Gates brand, part number EMH318. And let's go ahead and open it and compare them. Make sure it's an exact match here. There you go. Looks like a good match. So now we just got to swap over the two clamps here. And again, if you were wondering, this part down here, that's the part that goes on to the PCV valve. So the part with the sleeve near the top here, that's the part that goes towards the intake manifold. Alright, so once you got your clamps on there, go ahead and slide it back over the nipple of the PCV valve. Make sure you press it all the way up against it so it's flush. Alright, so that's what it should look like once you got the valve back in and the hose and the clamp on there, and then you're just waiting to put this end on the intake manifold when we put that back on. So for this one goes from the driver's side valve cover to your air intake. And it's just 2 simple clamps on there. I'm just gonna get my pliers, move that clamp up, and kind of twist that off. Boom, that came off real easy. I think this hose is still good, but why not change it out? Because they're cheap and it's starting to get a little more brittle. All right, so now I'm just going to take off these clamps and I'm going to swap them over to the new hose. Now this is Gates part number EMH314. And again, this is just the hose that goes from the valve cover to the air intake hose. So there's the old one and the new one right next to it. Now I just like to use a vice grip pliers for these types of clamps here. Makes sliding them back really easy. Alright, so we're just going to give that nipple on the valve cover a little wipe. Clean it off around there as much as possible. And simply slide that back on all the way down. And then slide the clamp to the bottom, where there's just a little bit of a gap from the bottom. Give it a test tug, make sure it's on there. Okay, so now we got the hose that goes from valve cover to valve cover. You can see it goes there all the way down to there. And I think I'm just gonna undo this part right here just to give me a little more room. There we go, got that out. All right, now this one has no clamps. It just slides over those nipples there. So there you go, it's coming off. Boom, there's one. You just slide them back towards you, towards the front of the vehicle. This one's a little trickier because, there it goes, it's starting. There it goes, because there wasn't as much room. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of damage there on the end. It's starting to get cracked. So probably a good thing that I swapped these out now. This hose is very, very hard. I can't even really squish it at all. Now here's the replacement hose. This is Gates number EMH291. That's going to be our replacement hose. Pretty darn close. But this one is much more pliable. All right, just a super quick wipe for those nipples. Passenger side's on. Yeah, it's a very snug fit, but that's obviously how it's meant to be because it doesn't have any clamps. See if I can get this side here. There we go. Got it on. Alright, slide it all the way down until you can't anymore. Alright guys, so there you go, brand new hose. No cracks in that one. I think this already popped back in. Yeah, that already popped back in. So that's good. Alright, now that we've replaced the PCV valve and all of the emissions hoses, time to put everything back together. So let's grab the intake manifold. So now we're going to replace the worn out gaskets on the intake plenum or intake manifold, as well as the throttle body gasket here. What I'm using is Molly brand, part number MS19454. And these are really simple. There's these little tabs on here that you can just pull the old ones out from. And as you can see, it's kind of stuck in there. Now these are still pliable, but they do feel a little bit hard. And these ones are much nicer, soft, rubbery feel. So these 3 gaskets are all the same. So it doesn't matter which one that you use where. But there's a little locating tab on each one, so it makes it really easy to get it right. Really hard to screw up. I'm just going to give it a quick wipe in there. Anytime you're dealing with the sealing surface, I always try to clean it up a little bit before we put the new ones in. There you go. You can see there's a little dirt in there, but not too bad. So there you go. Put the little locating tab in there. And we're also going to do the throttle body. And that throttle body is the same on both sides, so there's not really a top or a bottom to that one. Okay, so now it's time to put the manifold back on so we can take off all this duct tape here. Now I'm going to use a bit of brake clean here, and I'm just going to spray it onto this rag, and I'm just going to clean up the surface a little bit. Just want to clean up where the gasket's going to seal, all that area around there. There's a little bit of dirt on there. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of compressed air here. Oh, sure enough, there's some stuff that came flying out of there. There you go. And then blow out all the holes. Alright, so now we're going to try to get the intake manifold back on here. First thing first though, I'm going to take the brake booster hose, which is this one right here. It goes along here. And I'm going to plug that into this back nipple on the intake manifold. Okay, so that's on. Now I just got to squeeze that clamp over it. Really hard to film that part. Alright, so these are the two studs right there that you have to line up with. And then right back in there, if you can see it, that little clamp right there. And that hose on that nipple back there. That's for the brake booster. Sorry about the filming there, guys. Alright, so now I'm going to put the remaining 5 bolts into the intake manifold here. And then I'm going to torque those down. Alright, so now we're going to put the bolts back into the intake manifold. I'm just going to snug them down a little bit at first, and then I'm going to torque them down. And I'll tell you what the specific torque value is, and there's also a certain pattern to torque them down. And I'll go ahead and show you that as well. Again, so I'm not doing the torque right now, I'm just snugging them down a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to torque these down to 8 foot-pounds or 96 inch-pounds. And there is a proper pattern. So I'll go ahead and do it real quick here, and then I'll show you the overview and the pattern. Okay, so the torque down sequence is number 1 right there. Number 2 right down there. Number 3 right down there. Number 4, that nut. Number 5, that nut. Number 6, the one back in here. Alright, back in there. Number 6. And number 7 right up front here. Okay, so now we want to put the 10mm bolts back in the 2 bolt holes in this little bracket back here, and then we'll clip in the wiring harness. Clip your wiring harness back in there. Just press till it snaps through the little hole in the bracket. There we go, that one's in. There we go, that one's in. Alright, now you're going to put your bolts in here for the vacuum canister. Just gonna fold that back up. And this is a 12mm here. Just gonna snug it up. Then we're gonna go ahead and plug this in now so we don't forget. Alright, snaps on there. So now I got to put the 12mm bolt back on the bracket here. And then the second one down there. Mackenzie.
Hi, can I stand on that chair?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. First, can you put me on it? Is it okay I can put my hands on there?
Yeah, it's not hot anymore, honey. Hey, Daddy's got to go get another wrench. Hold on, Daddy's truck, and be careful so you don't fall, okay?
Okay. Why does it have a picture of you?
Because Daddy's filming right now.
Oh.
Making a video. Alright, so snug those down. Hold on, Kenzie.
Why there's no picture of me?
Because your hand's not far enough. See? There it is. Alright, now we're just going to put this hose back on here.
No,
Slide it down all the way. Kind of goes in that groove there. And then you're going to slide on this little clamp. Oops.
Did you break it?
No, I didn't break it.
And what did it do with it?
It just slipped off. There we go. Now it's on there. Okay, that's good. All right, now we're going to put our throttle body back on. Thank you. So go ahead and line up your holes, slide your bolts through, get them started by hand.
Are you almost done?
Yeah, getting close. Gotta zip these 4 bad boys in there and then...
It's a picture of Daddy. Can you put your hand forward like this so you can see?
No, because Daddy's recording it for a video he's going to post online.
Oh.
Now you're gonna be famous, Kenzie. Just like Princess Elsa.
Is that gonna be loud?
No, not really. Okay, now you'll take your number 5 Allen socket and snug up the throttle body.
So loud.
Okay, now we're gonna torque down these throttle body bolts to 74 inch-pounds in a crisscross pattern. So we'll do the first one up here, then we'll go diagonal right there. Then this one. And this one. Okay, so after you wipe down the throttle body here with brake clean, go ahead and take your intake pipe here and you're just going to slide this in with the clamps right over here again. Just like that. And then same thing over here on this end. There you go. Make sure the clamps are centered properly and then go ahead and tighten those down. Make sure it's flush on there when you're tightening it. Okay. That one I didn't loosen, but we'll just check it. Okay, so now we're going to put the little bolts in the top of this. Right here, we're going to put in these bolts on the top of the air intake tube. Just going to snug them down. Alright, now we're going to slide this emissions tube back onto the air intake tube here. Push it in all the way, and we're going to put the clamp over right there. Alright, Okay, now we're gonna put the cover back on, and remember these grommets right here, these two grommets right here, go right on there, right on that post, and right on this post right here. So we're gonna put that over there. Sort of use these little holes right here as a guide. There we go. Press that on, press that on. All right, just gonna snug those down. All right, let's not forget our PCV valve hose. Gotta slide that on the back of the intake. Snug fit here, really, really tight. Wow, very tight. There we go. Get it all the way on there. All right, that's good. And then don't forget to feed your little hose into this little side clip that they got down here. You can get it turned the right way here. There we go. Right there, in that little side clip there. And last but not least, let's reconnect our battery and snug down that terminal. Okay, and we are done. Hope this helped, guys. Remember to do it yourself.